Joe Biden has effectively been caught faking support for the vaccine patent waiver. Take a look at this. So this is from In These Times, Sarah Lazar. U.S. says it supports a COVID vaccine patent waiver, but document reveals it is dragging feet at WTO, World Trade Organization. Global health advocates say a patent waiver would ease access to COVID vaccines, but the U.S. declined to support, as is, a proposal to greenlight the waiver, a summary of a September 14th WTO meeting shows. Now, it's actually worse than this. So we're going to have another meeting on this idea of what's called the TRIPS waiver. It's a vaccine patent waiver, so everybody can get access to the COVID vaccine and they can make generic versions of it and not get sued for making generic versions of it. And instead of having this meeting, the WTO canceled it and said, we can't have a meeting because of the, however you pronounce it, Omicron variant. So in other words, the solution to having new variants we can't talk about or implement because of the new variant. I like what David Sirota said about this. He said, if only there was some sort of complex system of technological networks that would allow you to communicate from afar. Yeah, this is egregious. So what Biden did, and this is something that was pointed out at the time by many, is he didn't say, I support the TRIPS waiver. So in other words, the proposal from South Africa and India to allow everybody to make the vaccine in generic versions. He didn't say I support the TRIPS waiver. He says I support a vaccine waiver. And the implication was, look, we got to negotiate new terms. Now, of course, that should have been red flag city for everybody. Because what happens every time they say something like that? Well, think about it. Compare it to the Build Back Better negotiation. And we went from having lower drug prices in the bill to totally stripped out, no lower drug prices. Then they came up with a compromise of like, well, what if we lower the drug prices for 10 drugs over the course of 2 to 5 years? And they had a debate and a discussion within the window of like, maybe we lower the prices of anywhere from 10 drugs to 50 drugs within this time frame. And that was the scope of the debate. That was the Overton window. And I mean, of course, it's bullshit. The only reason that we were having that discussion at all is because the influence of big pharma money that bought our politicians and owned the government. By the same token, this is exactly what's happening here. Let's have a TRIPS waiver, so any facility that can make a generic COVID-19 vaccine can make it, and Moderna and Pfizer will release their recipes so everybody knows how to make it. And that was the proposal. And Biden's like, I support a waiver, not the waiver. And then when it comes time to actually negotiate it, he's like, beep, 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 beep. He's nowhere to be found. He drags his feet. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. And so in other words, he tried to get the initial PR of, I support a vaccine patent waiver, and he got it, and then doesn't do anything for it. So he got the good round of press and did nothing. What does that remind you of? Another thing it reminds you of. We're going to stop helping Saudi Arabia offensively bomb Yemen. Everybody's like, hooray! Yay, Joe! Then what do we find out? Well, look at the wording. Offensively bomb Yemen. So in other words, they'll defensively help them, so they're still going to give Saudi Arabia weapons, and then Saudi Arabia turns around, and anytime they drop a bomb, no matter if it's on a school or a mosque or whatever, they go, that was defensive. And the U.S. goes, oh, okay, anyway, here's more weapons. This is what we're dealing with here. It is rampant, gargantuan dishonesty. And listen, I'm not going to mince words here. To not support the TRIPS waiver is flat out genocidal. Because this means millions more people are going to get COVID and hundreds of thousands or millions more will die simply to protect the profits of Big Pharma. That's the scandal that's going on right now. And then, of course, you have this giant scam being led by Bill Gates. This COVAX program. We're going to vaccinate, the world. Well, then when you look at the number that they actually wanted to vaccinate, what do they want to get, like 1 billion vaccines out there? What are there, 7 billion people in the world? More than 7 billion? And your goal through charity is we're going to vaccinate 1 billion people? you need to vaccinate the world so we don't get more variants. And then eventually it's going to come back to kick everybody in the ass, but maybe they don't care about the death, maybe they don't care about the destruction, because then you're reliant to keep going back to Big Pharma to keep getting vaccines, which means more profits for Big Pharma. So that's the real scandal here, because people have gotten lost in the weeds of all this anti-vax horse shit, okay? The vaccines work. A study in France of over 20 million people came out. The vaccines gave us 90% protection from severe illness, hospitalization, and death. They fucking work, okay? And I don't care any anecdotes you want to throw my way. For every anecdote you give me, there's 17 anecdotes on the other side. That's the whole point of looking at macro data versus micro data. So, but there is a conspiracy going on here. There is a scandal here. And the scandal here is they are not vaccinating the developing world. They're not doing it. Something like anywhere from 3 to 7% of Africa is vaccinated. So many countries have not hit a decent threshold of vaccination. And it's not just because of the anti-vax sentiment. It's because they don't have access to the vaccines. So, the developing world is largely hoarding them, and everybody else is screwed. And so you're going to have the virus mutate unabated and uninhibited. And so you need to vaccinate the world. You need to support a TRIPS waiver. Now, then there's this other bullshit talking point from Big Pharma. Well, anybody who can make the vaccine is already making the vaccine. Bullshit! Bullshit! We know of direct stories, India, elsewhere. They're like, we can make the vaccine. We need the recipe for it, and we need to know you're not going to sue the shit out of us if we do it. Waive the patent protections. And now you have some places they're trying to reverse engineer the vaccine. Because, if Pfizer or Moderna just gives them their recipe, well, that would hurt Pfizer and Moderna's profits. So now they're trying to reverse engineer the vaccine, so it's taking way longer. This is beyond a scandal. And Joe Biden just got the optics win. I support a vaccine waiver. And then he didn't say he supports the waiver, so he wants new terms, but then they don't even negotiate their terms, and they're dragging their fucking feet. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, in my mind, this is immoral, unethical, and it should be prosecutable, what's going on here. And, if not that all of you guys didn't understand the deleterious impact of money in politics, but here it is, front and center in the most grotesque and stark way imaginable. This is the impact of money in politics. When Big Pharma buys the government in the United States, they will literally side with Big Pharma and their profits over saving hundreds of thousands or millions of lives in the developing world. And you wonder why people lose hope and feel nihilistic and are doomers. Look, I'm against doomerism and nihilism, but I understand where the feeling comes from. Of course I understand where it comes from. How can you not when you look at a story like this? So, Jesus Christ. Vaccinate the world, man. Vaccinate the world. Lift the patent protections. Sign on to the TRIPS waiver, and they could get to making that vaccine today, son. Today. And it'll save lives. If not, okay. This pandemic is going to become endemic, and we're going to be living with it for fucking ever, and there's going to be a new variant, whatever, every year, every 2 years. And, hey, cross your fingers, man. Who knows when we might get a variant that is incredibly transmissible and also way more deadly. That is possible. With this, again, I'm going to mispronounce it. I struggle with it. My dyslexia is kicking in. Omicron variant. They say it's about 40% more transmissible, but the symptoms are not any worse than Delta original COVID. So it is more deadly in the sense that more people will get it, and so because of that, more people will die because more people got it. But it's not any worse in terms of the symptoms you get from it. So it's not the worst nightmare scenario, but there could be the worst nightmare scenario coming very soon. So, I mean, I don't know how to get this idea out there any more clear than I am, but for the love of God, this is a matter of life and death for the world. And no, big pharma profits win out over the world. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.